I'm gonna show you something beautiful. Everyone screaming for mercy. You want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. You're all puppets, tangled in strings.
Puny God.
Alright, I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. Okay, so the Avengers Age of Ultron. I was really excited for this movie. First I should probably touch on the original. I really loved it. It was tons of fun. The cast was incredible. I thought it was really well paced. There was a perfect balance of humor and intensity that was funny when it wanted to be and intense when it needed to be. And I just don't have that many real criticisms. There are a few superficial little things, but I mean, they're really reaching. I actually purchased that film, and it's one of the few purchases I can say I have no regrets about. I've watched it so many times, and it's still awesome every single time. If I had to rate it today, I'd say it ranks a full 10 out of 10. A very rare score on my scale. So keeping that in mind, Age of Ultron had some pretty big shoes to fill, and it didn't really help that I had never heard of Ultron. Seriously. Apparently several of the cast members hadn't either, so that's a fun story. But the plot is basically as follows. The Avengers are busy cleaning up Hydra in the wake of Captain America 2, and they stumble across Loki's scepter. Now, Stark discovers something inside of it. An advanced AI crystal. He uses it to create Ultron. His idea is to implement that into an Iron Man type suit of armor that could basically do the Avengers' job for them, and allow them to basically all go home, because it would handle tackling invading aliens and the like. Unfortunately, like AI in every other movie, well, ever, it goes all Terminator and wants to kill everyone to create peace of a sort. Yeah, okay, so there were a lot of standout moments in this film. Particularly, you may have seen this, it was in several trailers. There's a moment where they're all drinking, all the Avengers just sitting around drinking, and they all try to lift Thor's hammer, because you have to be worthy to lift Thor's hammer. And so they go through, Iron Man tries to lift it, and utterly fails. I mean, he even gets Rhodey in there, he puts on the armor on his arm, and he's trying to lift it, thrusters, no, nothing happening. So then Hawkeye and Black Widow try, or actually Black Widow doesn't try, but the others try, and finally gets to Captain America, and he grabs it, and the hammer shifts. You can see it just moves, also subtly, and it just kind of relaxes, like, nah, I can't do it. And Thor is kind of shocked, because basically he thought he was the only one. So that was a really fun scene. Tons of fun. All the trailers, great scene. There's also another very punchy scene, actually a death scene, which is kind of required, because at this point we've had so many fake outs that it's just, yeah, they needed to actually kill somebody, or we'd never believe it if they actually did. I'm not going to spoil who it is, but suffice it to say, I was actually kind of touched. It kind of stung. I don't think it'll be making a huge impact on the overall story arc, but it hurt. So, well done, Marvel. You actually managed a tearjerker. That was surprising. So, let's move on to the cast. And the cast are all excellent once again. First off, got a shout out, James Spader, the actor who plays Ultron. You may know him from the TV show The Blacklist, which is awesome. And he does, in many ways, a very similar performance. A very charismatic, kind of quirky, very entertaining villain. Truly great. Very impressive. Outdoes even Tom Hiddleston's Loki in rather spectacular fashion. So, that was remarkable. I was almost sad when he died, because he's not going to be in future films. Yeah. Great job, James. Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye is also great. We see a bit more about him in this movie. And Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, once again as Captain America and Robert Downey Jr., or vice versa. And excellent. They play off each other very well. And just no real complaints about the cast. Everyone was rock solid. The visual effects, for the most part, were also pretty good. There were a few moments where it kinda where they just looked okay, but on the whole, a solid follow-up. Once again, comedy and action, perfect blend. A little bit more comedy in some ways, even with the villain. I mean, there are plenty of great jokes in here. I mean, just as quotable as the original. My biggest complaint with the story is that it is a little bit unambitious. It is basically the same thing as the original. Feels a lot like it, which is both good and bad. It's good because the original was a great film, and certainly there's no complaints about trying to emulate it. My biggest problem is that it doesn't do more, which is, I think, what a lot of critics had issue with as well. It feels like the Avengers 2.0. It's really great, but it's also kind of unambitious. So I think that's why a lot of the critics rated this down a bit. You'll see this sitting at somewhere around 70%, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes, which, in my opinion, is quite a bit too low. But I can understand why. The original Avengers was a sensation. It revolutionized comic book movies, and this doesn't. Another problem critics had was that they tried to spin a love story between the Black Widow and the Hulk, or Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff, but it's really uninteresting. Some people criticize this on ideological grounds. I have no problem with it there, but I do have a real problem with it because it took me out of the story. I'm sorry. These two actors, while both very great and well suited to their roles, they just don't have the chemistry to pull this off. It just feels forced and doesn't work very well. It's not a huge deal, but it is disappointing. So my final verdict for this film would be a 9 out of 10. It's not quite as good as the original. It very much tries to do what the original did, but it's just a little bit unambitious, and there are a few technical problems that do end up contributing to an issue. And that issue is that it's just not quite as good as the original. Now, that being said, few sequels are, and it was certainly an excellent film. One of the best times I've had at the cinema all year. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely pick it up. You can get it right now on digital HD, or you can rent it on Bluray or DVD next month. You should seriously consider picking this up for your collection, or at the very least renting it to watch again, because this is an excellent film. Definitely worthy of your time. So that's it. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please subscribe for more content, and like this video if you enjoyed it. WizKid490, out.
There are no strings on me.